We are on the way for the walking tour. Don't fall behind, boy.
Weather has not been the worst, and we'll try to stay indoors as much as possible. So there are a couple of stops that we are completely exposed. Fingers crossed, we're not going to have problems there. They lost control, so they handed over Bosnia to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They were here for 40 years, 4 decades. They were here until they lost the First World War. But they're two Turkish words. Saray means a palace, Ovasi means field, so that would be like a literal translation. Field in front of a palace, although that palace does not exist anymore. Yeah, so, and the Sultan was no else than Suleiman the Magnificent, the most powerful ruler of the Ottoman Empire. So to explain the meaning of his name, so Gazim, his name, well, you can compare that to the English title of Sir. So that was like a knight of the Ottoman Empire. People who had like military contributions. Ulster was his real name. Bey, his name indicated he was a nobleman. So that's an equivalent of a lord in medieval. And in that period he constructed the mosque. So mosque existed in 1531. You can see the year 1537. So 6 years after the mosque he opened the library. In the same year, he also opened the madrasa, religious high school. So that school is now behind the flag, and that's modern object, and the old object is a museum. He also brought running water into Sarajevo, which was quite rare in Europe in the 16th century. He built hammam, the Turkish bathhouse, several fountains, several caravans that which is like a vanilla version of a hotel. He married public kitchen to feed the poorest people of Sarajevo for those huge mosques of Istanbul. So literally, like when you put everything on paper, it is safe to say that the Austro-Hungarian Empire did more for Bosnia in 4 decades than the Ottomans did in 4 centuries. But it's also fair to say that the whole world was changing at that time. So this technological progress went very slow, but then when it started to happen, a lot of changes in a relatively short time. Unfortunately, future modernization was stopped with the outbreak of the First World War.
The sunset.
So since sunset is a different time every single day, that clock needs a manual adjustment every single day. It's basically a tradition. Very complicated stuff, but they like to keep the tradition running. There is a person who has the key.
Why are you licking this paper? It's disgusting. You don't know where it's been.
Also, that stage over there. This is how a hotel looks like in Dublin. So, we were here a few centuries ago, you would be staying in the basement. So this lower part was the area for horses. Also no. This is the east side of Sarajevo, airport area is the west. This is the south of the city, and these hills would be the north. So, again in Europe, we're not being and also lots of residential neighborhoods. And remember, return here, walk for 15 minutes. The view is gorgeous. The best place to watch the sunset. Most important,
Zimno przyżmu. Where's your...
An Austro-Hungarian Empire, he was Islamic architectural style called Moorish style to build a town. So you see, the Austrians were smart people. I would say very pragmatic. In order to appease the local majority of the buildings, but they were using the Islamic architectural style to build government objects, and and also schools all across Bosnia. So these are the 5 prime examples of that trend. You have a town hall in Sarajevo, then you have a town hall in Mostar. So pretty much the same size. There's a town hall in Mostar with the white color. Then you also have a town hall in Vitebsk, a small town in the north. Looks pretty much like this one.
The tour continues. The struggle is real. You're part of the walking tour, G.
Yeah, there is. Alright, everyone's here, right? Everyone can hear me loud and clear. They created this chain event where these big powers of Europe started declaring war on one another. So that time in Europe you had these 2 alliances. Triple Entente, which was Great Britain, France and Russian Empire, and Central Powers, which were Germany, German Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, and Kingdom of Italy, at least. Then Serbia were living in independent country. So many Serbs who lived in Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina were resentful towards the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Austrian regime was quite unpopular over here. And there was this organization called Young Bosnia, which was fighting against the Austrians. So Young Bosnia was organizing strikes, boycotts, next one in the line for the throne. So he decided to visit Sarajevo on 28th of June 1914. And he was coming with his wife, Sophie. So they were coming here for 3 reasons. One planned under this. 6 members of Young Bosnia traveled to Belgrade in Serbia a few weeks before this visit. They came in touch with an organization called Black Hand. The Black Hand was made out of military intelligence officers of the Serbian army. They acted independently, so separated from the Serbian government. Serbian government power passes. Whoever has the best opportunity will try to kill them. First opportunity happened on the that is called Trimoria. Trimoria in Turkish language is a charcoal. That's why the Turkish. So, 19-year-old member of Young Bosnia, Nediko Čobrinović, threw a bomb on the moving car. However, he was simply inaccurate. In 40 minutes after the bomb, 10 p.m. bomb explosion on the Trimoria bridge. 10:40, shooting over there. By 11:30, both France and Sophie were dead. And that basically created the double effect. So, Austro-Hungarian Empire blamed Serbia for this. They had no proof that the Serbian government ordered this. Regardless, they designed the euthanasia. Great Britain and France offered a lot of support to the Ottoman Empire in the Crimean War, and the Russians were defeated in 1856. So that peace treaty was signed in Paris. Ottomans, 12 million people in the Ottoman Empire were Christians. And all the way until 1856, Muslims were always privileged. So they paid less in taxes, many more doors were open to them than for the Christian community in the Ottoman. Third thing that the Ottomans had to promise, they had to allow construction of new Orthodox churches in the Balkans. So many new churches were built in Bulgaria, in Serbia, in Macedonia, and also in Bosnia, in Galatia. So Muslims were offended with that. They saw that this was a deliberate act of provocation, that the church is taller than the mosque. And the Ottoman authorities were postponing this opening on several instances because simply they were scared of riots. So that finally happened in 1874. They had to wait for 2 years. And it happened because the new governor came to Bosnia with more soldiers. That man arrested the radicals and he allowed this opening ceremony to go. So during the World War I, the obelisk with an eagle. The church was badly damaged, but it survived. And when the partisans defeated Nazis, the obelisk was blown apart. The church was reversed. During the siege of Sarajevo in the 90s, this was one of the safest objects. The reasons are very obvious. Orthodox Church, Army of Bosnia served, well, they were Orthodox Christians. Nobody bombed their own temple, right? The church served as a shelter during the siege. The irony is that three biggest massacres in Sarajevo happened at the proximity of the church, so in a radius of 150 meters away. So if you walk down the street, in like 1 minute of walking, to the balcony you can see historical part of Sarajevo from above. Yeah, on the other side you can see the city center. So if you would like to have good views, you have two locations: Yellow Fortress or this green building, which is the biggest one, the old house. So what we see here, this was the logo of the Sarajevo Winter. So the bidding process was in 1978. The Sarajevo was competing with Sapora, all kinds of staging. 4 mountains around Sarajevo were used as altitude. What's in common for all of those mountains, you can reach all of them in less than 1 hour driving from the city center. So skiing for ladies was in Jakorina. That's like 40 minutes in this direction. Skiing for men in Bjela, that's some 45 minutes in the opposite direction. The closest mountain to Sarajevo is the mountain Trebeni, the mountain that the bobsled track. So the mountain is too forest for skiing, so just bobsled and luge are organized there. And mountain closest one to the airport, Tigman, there's for cross country. So Sarajevo is the largest city and also has a big Jewish community all the way until the World War II. And now we're going to go into this street, so you can see the Jewish Museum, which is a former synagogue. And so I can share you some facts about the Jewish history. So the Jewish history in Sarajevo begins at the end of the 15th century. So 1492, Spanish conquista was over. So Spain was occupied by Moors, Muslims of Northern Africa, since the early 8th century. For about 500 years they were dominant in Spain. And then like from year 1212 till 1492, Spanish reclaimed all of their land back. And the last